Bonjour, 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 and welcome back to my channel, The Waves of Your Soul. Today's video is gonna be a VR to the hashtag midyear tarot that was created by Chanel from Spirited Stardust, and she created a bunch of questions for us to answer, kind of doing a review of the decks that we've been using in the last 6 months, the decks that kind of stood out for a reason or another in the last 6 months since the beginning of the year, doing a mid-year review, if you would say. As per usual, I'm very late to this tag, you know the drill, I'm never that person that responds straight away. I'm kind of living in my own time frame. Maybe it's the time difference. By the time the information comes to my island, I'm kind of behind. No, I'm kidding, obviously. I'm just always late to these things, but hopefully you'll still enjoy watching it. So if you're new here, hi, my name is Marine. I'm a French tarot reader and a lover of everything tarot, oracle, and self-empowerment related. On my channel, I love talking about tarot and oracle decks. They're a huge passion of mine, as you're gonna see. And I also love using the cards, so sharing pick a card readings for you in lots of different themes. So if you'd like to see more of that on your timeline, then don't hesitate to subscribe. I'd love to have you. For this video, you can give it a thumbs up or leave me a comment. It's a little gesture, but it definitely helps my channel out, and it's a nice exchange of energy. And if you're curious about any of those decks, all the names of them are going to be in the description box below, along with my other social media links, other videos you might want to check out. And I think that's it. Without further ado, let's get into my mid-year tarot tag VR. Can we take a minute of appreciation for this amazing feather that my dad found and gave it to me? And it's like this deep metallic blue on one side and this like bright yellow on the other side. It's so pretty. I've been enjoying it so much, and I'm so grateful he thought of me when he found it. So that's gonna be accompanying us for, I think, a lot of future videos. I really love it. And look at me already getting distracted and not talking about decks, and people are like, Marine, we want the decks, shut the fuck up about your feather, we need decks. Okay, so let's start. Prompt is the newest deck to your collection, and I have actually got to thank a lovely fellow tarot tuber for this, because the newest deck to my collection, and it literally arrived at the time of me filming this, it arrived like this morning, so it's new, you couldn't make it more new. This is the Heroine Tarot by Gina, and then a last name I won't even try to pronounce because I know I will butcher for sure. So this is the creator's name, and I actually finally have this deck in my possession after lusting after it for years. This is one of those decks for me that's been on my wish list for years. I kind of had given up the idea of ever owning it. Beginning, it was only shipping in the US, then it went out of print for a while. It came out in 2019, that's why I first saw it, and I've been lusting after it ever since. So been lusting after it for 4 years. It was impossible for me to get. They weren't delivering here, and it was just one of those that I was watching from afar, and I had kind of accepted that I would never own, even though it was a huge crush for me. And then the amazing and super lovely Ali, from such a sweetheart and so thoughtful and kind, messaged me and was like, hey, if you want, you can order it to my place and I will send it to you in reunion. And oh my god, thank you so much. If you're not following Ali's channel, Tarot, I'm gonna leave the link to her channel below. She is a fellow tarot tuber. She has a wonderful taste of deck, heartwarming personality, so definitely go and follow her, go and watch her videos and comment and tell her I say hi. Very kind of fashion-y in terms of the outfits and everything. It's giving Vogue, it's giving fashion, which I love, but there's also a lot of power in sense of reclaiming your own femininity, reclaiming your own bravery, reclaiming how badass you want to be, not giving a shit about what people think about you, and just owning your truth, owning your authentic self, which is what made me fall in love with the deck in the first place. On top of that, obviously the artwork is very beautiful, but it's that sort of girl power deck that I just love. The next prompt is, what is the most anticipated release for 2023? I, along with many other people I'm sure, I'm waiting on the Bohemian Gothic Tarot, which I pre-ordered whenever Baba Studio opened the pre-orders, and I think that's coming towards the end of the year. I have been lusting after that deck again a good 4 years. The Heroine Tarot, the Bohemian Gothic, they're all decks that have been on my wishlist for years, and so the idea of finally owning that is super exciting. I'm also very excited actually for the last edition of the Lost Forest Tarot, which I also backed on a Kickstarter, which is a deck that was released, I think, already 2 times, and I missed the Kickstarters at the time, and then I saw that they were doing one last release, and I finally managed to pick that up, and I think that's also coming at the end of the year. It's one I've been kind of having my eye out as well for. Is that even English? Kind of having my eye out for. I don't know. A bit tired, brain foggy, so I apologize if I'm making more mistakes in English than usual. Please bear with me. The next one is your biggest disappointment. Well, that was kind of easy because I haven't had many disappointments this year. I don't usually get disappointed with decks because, if I'm completely honest, it's very rare for me to buy a deck unseen. If I put money into something, it's because I know in advance I'm gonna like it. I don't have the luxury to order something unseen because things take months to come to me in Reunion, and then if I don't like them, I can't send them back because it's too expensive. So we don't have Amazon here or anything like that for mass market decks, so I can't be doing the thing of like, oh, I'm gonna order it, if I don't like it I will send it back. Like, no, that's not an option for me. So if I order something, whether it's indie or if I order something through my bookshop, through the local bookshops and stuff to get stuff mass market, now that Book Depository has closed, I need to make sure I'm gonna like it. So I watch my videos, I do my research. Sometimes there's exceptions, and I'm gonna talk about one now where I buy something unseen, but it's very, very rare. So I don't usually get disappointed with decks because I usually make sure that if I buy something, there's like a big chance for me to like it. One, though, that was disappointing this year, for me anyway, and it's the experience that was disappointing more than the deck itself, is the Literary Tarot, which is a deck I backed on Kickstarter in 2021. So it was 2 years of wait. It is what it is. This is, I'm sure you've seen it all over. There's lots of people who have done reviews. I literally got mine last week, so I've been kind of like looking at it, reading the guidebook. I've not even shuffled it yet. I've been mostly like getting to know the guidebook, reading the PDFs that they had sent, stuff like that. I don't want to say it was like the biggest disappointment ever and the deck is bad, because it's really not. I think if you don't know, this deck is based on literature, like, so each card is inspired by a classic book, novel, poem that was chosen by different people. Originally a non-profit that created this, which is why I backed the Kickstarter. At the time I was very excited. Judgment is inspired by Dante's Inferno. The pairing was created by Felida Hicks, and then it gives you like a little bit of information, upright, reversed, as to why they chose this particular literature piece to match with Judgment. So I will say, like, the deck in itself is not disappointing. Like, it's very pretty. There's like gold foiled on all of the cards. I think the artwork, the quality of the artwork is nice. But having to wait 2 years for the Kickstarter means that my personal taste in tarot have changed a little bit. For example, when I first ordered this, I didn't really mind the idea of renamed suits, and now it's something that really bothers me because I find that it gets in the way of me using a deck if I have to do that mental gymnastic, especially if the renamed suits are renamed in a way that makes no sense to me. So here they've renamed the suits Inks, Light, we have Quills, I believe, yeah. And the last one is, what is the last one? I forgot already. Parchment. And they don't make sense to me. I've been just looking at this deck for a week and I've already forgotten what is what. Because they actually don't make sense to me the way it's done. That's the problem for me. So parchments, material concerns and health. Parchments are pentacles, which makes sense. It's something I can touch. Okay. Quills as swords, again, it's a pen, it's pointed as sword, I get it. But then we have light for cups and ink for wands, and I always get them mixed up because for me ink is watery. It's something you put in water. It's a liquid. So I can't have my wands liquidy. That doesn't make sense to me. And then light for cups. Again, that doesn't make sense to me. Why are my cups light? Light should be wands. For me, light is something that is like bright. So it could be translated to fire. And I always associate wands with fire. So the fact that here light is cups doesn't make any sense. Maybe it does for them, but for me it really doesn't make sense. So I'm disappointed by this renaming of suits. That doesn't make sense to me. On top of that, the fact that when it arrived, I had already paid like the Kickstarter, and then I had to pay more for shipping, and then when it got here, ended up having to pay even more taxes and stuff. So it ended up costing me so much for a deck that I don't know if I'm actually gonna use or not. It's a shame because I love the artwork. I think the artwork is gorgeous, and I am excited to try and read more about the associations and read more about the books and stuff, but it's just that mental gymnastics of the suit, which I know is gonna be a struggle. I'm gonna read more about the guidebook, I'm gonna spend time with it, and I'll make my final decision later, but for now, as like something that's kind of new in my collection, I'm a bit bummed about it, to be honest. Okay, the biggest surprise of the year, I've actually done a whole video about my surprising decks. I'll leave that in the corner somewhere. It was a VR to Simplicimenti SE, my lovely friend Nessie. So I've done a whole video about decks that surprised me for a reason or another. Good surprise, bad surprise. So I'll leave that in the cards. But the most recent surprising deck, really, for me, was the Lord of the Rings Tarot, which is the exception to the rule because I actually bought this sight unseen on Etsy. One of the very few decks that I bought, not seen any images at the time. I've seen now that they've kind of like upped their games on their Etsy ad, and so they've added images. At the time of me buying the deck, there was maybe like 2 pictures. Now they've really done a better job at sharing more pics of the cards, which I'm very happy for them about, because I think that's going to help them get their decks out. And as you can see, I have number 6 out of 500, so I was one of the very first people to pick it up. I picked this up mostly because I love the Lord of the Rings, so even though I hadn't seen really any images, it was a no-brainer for me because it's a world and a lore I adore. And it was surprising because it turned out to be much better than I expected, in the sense that I wasn't expecting the choices behind each card to be so well thought out. I thought maybe it was going to be one of those like, you know, it's Lord of the Rings, so let's give it Lord of the Rings vibe, but not necessarily thinking about the meaning of the tarot behind each card, and here it really does. You can tell that the person who created this understands the tarot archetypes, and for that I am so impressed and pleasantly surprised, because sometimes those like pop culture decks, they can be cash grabs, let's be real, and not necessarily be usable as tarot decks, but here it definitely makes sense. Mages are colored, the minors are more sepia toned, white and sepia toned. The one thing that's disappointing with this deck is the fact that there are some errors, like spelling errors on some of the cards, like the Wheel of Fortune, for example. Instead of saying wheel, it says there's like H's and replacing the E's, and I think the Emperor, it says the Emperor, things like that. But honestly, I've grown to love this deck so much that I kind of got definitely over it. Gets in the way of me using and enjoying this deck, but I understand that for some people it would drive them crazy, so I understand, and I want to put it out there. If you want your decks to be perfect, this is not it because of those errors, but if you are a Tolkien fan and you're willing to look over that, then this is wonderful. It follows the 3 eras. So we have the Silmarillion, the Hobbit, and the Lord of the Rings. Very low expectations. I just thought, I love Tolkien, it looks cool, let me try it. And I'm super impressed. 9 of Swords, we have Gollum when he lost his ring. Again, very potent, very explicit, like we understand. For the 10 of Swords, we have the death of Boromir. I think it's very cool, very well done. It's a big 10 of Swords moment in the story. So, and of course the tower is the Tower of Sauron. So my inner child nerd is in heaven using this deck because the Lord of the Rings, it's such a comfort watch or comfort read for me. So I've been really pleasantly surprised, and I will leave the link to the Etsy shop where I found this down below if you are interested. I'm not sponsored or anything, I'm just sharing the gospel for all of my Tolkien lovers out there. Next up we have what is your deck crush. The one I've been using, like, that's really pleasantly surprised me, the one I'm having a crush on right now, is one I've not really talked on my channel yet, I don't think. It's the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot. I shared in one of my recent hauls because it's a deck I got this year, but I've not shared how much I've been enjoying it yet. And honestly, for the months of July and August, it's one of the decks I've been using the most. There's something about it that was fitting Cancer, but actually coming into Leo season, turned out that this deck is definitely a Leo. I know there's gonna be so many people pissed at me for saying that, because they're gonna be like, no, it's a Cancer deck or a Pisces because it's mermaids, and I'm here to tell you you're wrong. This deck is Leo. It's a Leo fiery deck. Mixed with water. It's like Leo going to the beach, or Leo spending time at the ocean, because even though it's a lot of mermaids, it's actually also a lot of pirates, and that pirate energy is something I love. Obviously, living on a tropical island, we have tons of pirate lore here, pirate stories. There are so many treasures that are still yet to be uncovered where I live in Reunion and in the whole Indian Ocean. There's so much rich pirate history, and it's something I've been obsessed with since I've been a child. I love pirate stories, and so what's made me really crush with this deck is not necessarily the mermaid aspect of it, but it's all the pirate aspect of it, giving very like Our Flag Means Death. For those of you who watch that shows, you'll know, kind of like queer camp pirates, which is a very niche specific theme, but something that brings me a lot of joy. And I found reading with this, using it for like the last 2 months, it's definitely full of energy. Like, it's not a watery deck, I don't find, even though again lots of mermaids. So I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with me, but just know you're wrong. I'm kidding, obviously you're entitled to think whatever you want, but it's been interesting for me to realize that this deck is more than meets the eye. So actually it could have been in my surprise decks as well, but it's the deck I've been crushing on this like last couple of months because it's fun. This Seven of Wands has been following me around the last few weeks. You can't see my face right now because I'm obviously behind the camera, but just know I definitely can relate. This has been the mood for the last few weeks. Next up we have what is a deck that made you cry. I haven't had a deck that made me full on cry, but I'll say a deck that has moved me, that has definitely made me feel deep things, more in the sense of like reverence and potentially like inviting deep gratitude, and very much like a moving deck. The most recent one anyway, Naturescape Tarot, which again I've not shared on my channel yet because it's a deck that is kind of new. It's something that I had ordered on Make Playing Cards in 2022, and it's taken 1 year to come to me. It's been in the ether, traveling everywhere for a whole year. Oh, I didn't share the backs. So it's Make Playing Cards. I believe it was made by a fellow tarot lover, tarot content creator. I will leave the link of where I found it down below. It finally arrived last month, and I've been getting to know it, and it's been definitely a very moving deck. As you can see, it's a photographic deck, so it's gonna be one of those that either you love or you really don't like. I found that those photographic decks are kind of like Marmite decks. Some people love them, some people hate them. I have definitely developed a huge love for those photographic decks. I think there's something super touching about it, and the fact that it's real nature. I find nature very touching anyway, so that zoom you in so you can appreciate more the artwork. So yeah, I find nature super moving anyway. Like, I can't watch nature documentaries without bawling my eyes out. It's something that is very emotional for me. I don't know why, but seeing like nature documentaries, any kind of David Attenborough stuff makes me cry like a baby. Using a deck like this where it's only pictures of nature, it's very moving for me. It's almost like a spiritual experience because I find nature in itself so profound, so moving, and I find that it can be such a teacher and something we should be in so much reverence to. And I have so much gratitude for living here on this earth, being surrounded by beautiful nature, seeing animals in the wild. It's something that is so special to me that using this deck, it moved me in the sense of like being in awe, being in gratitude, feeling reverence for this life, feeling reverence for the natural world and my own spiritual practice, which is very much focused on working with the natural world. And there's something super clever like about the choices made here. The person who created this is a genius in my humble opinion, because it makes sense. Like every card, I understand why they chose this. Like Two of Swords, yes. Queen of Pentacles, yes. Like there's been maybe 1 or 2 cards that have left me puzzled, but the majority of it makes sense, even though there's just landscape, there's no humans. Could be a bit tricky for beginners out there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as your first tarot deck, but if you are already familiar with tarot concepts and archetypes and the meanings of the card, I think this is a fantastic one to get outside of your comfort zone and find inspiration, because I find this deck super poetic and super inspiring, and there's something magical about this. Next up we have, what is a deck that has made you happy? This is very easy. I think all of you who watch my recent videos are gonna be able to answer for me. This is a Joe Sparrow Tarot. It's a deck, it's not new, I've had this since last year already, but I've been using it to the death this year, and I know that for me sharing it, there's so many of you who have also bought it. There's so many of my fellow tarot tubers who also bought it because I kept going on about this deck, so I know I've definitely influenced a lot of love for this deck, and I'm so happy about it because this is such a good mood deck for me. It's a deck that has brought me so much joy. Every time I use this deck, I feel better about my life, my state of mind, my mood. It's very fun, it's very cheeky, it's so full of personality, and I just love the artwork, I love the vibe of it, I love the choices that were made, I love the artist's point of view, I love the bright colors, I love the modern mixed with some fantasy. Like, this has very quickly climbed into my favorite decks ever. This is in my top 5 favorite tarot decks ever, and that says a lot because I have a lot of decks, I'm picky, I'm an unhinged Aries, I don't make sense to myself sometimes, but this has made so much sense. This makes me so happy. Like I said, like, it's every time I use this I feel better, I smile, I feel happier. It's the ultimate good mood deck for me, and for that reason it has to be the deck that made me happy. I'm still getting messages almost every 2 days about people saying, hey, thanks to you I picked this up, and I'm super happy because this deck deserves to be loved and seen and used, and it's just a joy. It's one of my favorite cards, 5 of Wands. So cool. I love the Strength card. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, well, there you go. The Fool is wonderful, and Strength is just, it's perfect. Next up we have, what is the most beautiful deck this year? I wanted to share 2 because I've realized I've shared a lot of indie options today, and I also love mass market. Obviously, I'm actually doing a whole series on mass market decks, especially underrated mass market decks. The first episode is up at the moment of me filming this, maybe even the second episode, I don't know. I'll leave it in the cards somewhere if you've not seen that, where I share all about underrated, amazing, hidden gem mass market decks. Definitely check that out if you are looking for cool mass market decks. But this year I've actually received more indie decks, mostly because since Book Depository has closed, it's been harder for me to buy mass market decks, whereas normally they should be the most easier to access. Not for me where I live, because like I said, I don't have Amazon, I've lost Book Depository, and even my local bookshops, they can take months to order things in. So indies have actually been easier for me to buy because I can get them on Etsy and things like that. But the most beautiful deck, I had 2, so 1 mass market and 1 indie. For the indie edition, we have the Age of Aquarius Tarot. Wow, this is so beautiful, like the quality, the production, look at this. This is a whole mood. If we're talking about indie quality excellence, where you get the delicious cardstock, you get the cool edging, beautiful box, and you know, soft touch guidebook, this is everything. Photo on the box, it's like one of those things that is just a piece of art, to be honest, and using it, it's an experience in itself. So if I'm thinking about most beautiful in terms of indie, this is definitely up there. And this was a Kickstarter I backed last year that I've received this year, and the reason why for me it's one of the most beautiful decks I've used this year is because it's very, very inspired by the ocean, by rivers, underwater elements, and I find that extremely beautiful. There's a bit of a cosmic vibe, which is not necessarily my vibe. I don't resonate with Star Child, Star Seeds, all of those things, even though I have the Star Child tarot, but Star Seeds and stuff, not my vibe. I prefer oceany stuff, and I think this is a mix of both, but because it has some extremely beautiful nature-inspired, ocean-inspired, water-inspired cards, wow, it just gets me. Look at this 8 of pearls, and you know what? I'm a fucking hypocrite, okay? Because, and I know that, so it's okay, you don't need to come for me. I'm a hypocrite because I just said that my disappointment on the literary tarot was that they had renamed the suit, and I couldn't get on board with that. And here they've renamed the suit and I can get on board with that, but here the renaming, it makes sense. Like pearls are pentacles, that makes sense to me. It still looks like something you can hold, it's still something that's linked to resources, finances and stuff. I guess not all renaming is a problem, it's just that in some cases it's just doesn't make sense to me, and so that's when it kind of gets in the way of me enjoying the deck. But look at this 7 of Swords. Oh, this might be my favorite card in the deck. It's so beautiful. So yeah, I live for all of those watery vibes. There's something so aesthetically pleasing about those underwater pictures, those moody ocean vibes, that for me had to be included as most beautiful deck. Look at this, another excellent card. Honestly, the 7s in these decks are perfection. Let's see if we can find my favorite card, which is obviously with a whale. I'm very predictable like that. Well, I love this one. This 3 of pearls is amazing. This Page of Cups is amazing. There are some additional oracle cards in this deck. I don't know if I've mentioned it, which I've left in right now. Sometimes I take them out, sometimes I use them. Oh, there we go. The King of Cups is a humpback whale, and that just speaks to my soul because they're one of my favorite animals. They're actually back in reunion at the moment. I'm seeing them pretty much every day at my bedroom window, and it's such a blessing, and I just love them so much. So The Age of Aquarius by Yana Saint-Lévy. The other option is a mass market option, and the Symbolic Soul Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. And honestly, for a mass market deck, I was super impressed at the quality. It feels very nice, it's matte, so it's easy to shuffle. I've come to realize I enjoy matte decks very much. It has gold accents on every single card, which are really beautiful and really cool, and the artwork is just really stunning. So for a mass market, I was super impressed. I thought the quality was amazing. The artwork is really clever and it's very unique. This deck has a ton of personality. It is very irreverent. When you look at all the details, you'll see things that will make you giggle. There's a lot of like quirky things in this deck, but there's a lot of interesting symbolism here, little details happening in the corner, and on top of that, it's just, I find anyway, this artwork, it really speaks to me, even though I'm not necessarily always the biggest fan of black and white deck. I love color so much, but this one is done so right. So I wanted to shout it out as well for a mass market option. There's also beautiful mass market decks out there, and this is one of them. Let's wrap it up with the last question, which is, what deck do you want by the end of the year, or are you still waiting on before the end of the year? I'm waiting on so many decks, guys. Honestly, at this point, between the decks I ordered the last 2-3 years that I'm still waiting on, the Kickstarter I backed that I'm still waiting on, and decks I'm ordering this year that probably won't arrive until next year because shipping to me is just insane. There's a lot of decks I've been waiting on, and patience is now one of my virtues. Who would have thought I'm actually a patient Aries now, which I never thought I would end up being, but I'm very patient. Highlight things I'm very looking forward to, obviously the Bohemian Gothic, the Lost Forest I've talked about. I bought the Pulp Tarot on Etsy. I'm still waiting for that. It's been a few months, but I'm super pumped to get my hands on it when it arrives because I really love the vintage look. It looks super fun. I backed on Kickstarter, I backed the Zelda deck, the deck that was based on the Zelda games, and I'm a huge Zelda fan, so I'm super pumped for that as well. I also ordered the Heavenly Bloom, which I'm still waiting for. It was like when Book Depository closed, I still haven't received that, but I know it's gonna arrive at some point and I'm pumped for that. And what else am I waiting for? I think that's kind of like the main highlights. There's definitely a lot I'm forgetting. Oh, and I just recently backed on Kickstarter the Dream of Nile Tarot, which I'm also super pumped about because it's Egyptian and I love anything Egyptian. On top of that, it's super beautiful artwork, so those would be few options of decks I'm waiting on. This is it, my friends. These were all my responses to the mid-year tarot tag. I want to say thank you so much to Chanel from Spirited Stardust for creating this tag. It was super fun. Thank you so much to you guys for watching it. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you so much, and let me know in the comments down below what are some of the responses to this tag. Like, what is your biggest surprise, biggest disappointment, your deck crush, most beautiful deck this year? I'd love to know. We can chat in the comments. I love reading you. And until my next video, I'm sending you so much good vibes and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!